Yo, 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 it's Crazy Curt Comics. I am back doing YouTube videos. This is going to be so much fun. Now, if you don't know anything about me, I am Crazy Curt. I am a comic book collector, mostly from the 90s in the comic book boom, and I stopped cold turkey around Y2K. I went 20 years without collecting comics, and I recently got back into the hobby. I moved from Philadelphia, where I was born and raised. Go Eagles! And I moved from Philadelphia, brought all my comic books with me. My wife made me. I was actually going to leave them at my mom's house, believe it or not. We were moving, and I didn't want to load anything else in the truck, and I said, I'm just going to leave my mom's house. And my wife said, no, go get them, bring them with you. And I'm so glad she did, because I got them here at the house, and I decided to open them up and start going through them. And I had this storage closet behind me that we made into a comic book room so I could show them off. This is so great. So I am so happy I did. I am full force in the comics. And since then, I started flipping things. I flip a lot of pop culture related items, comic book related items. I go to thrift stores and yard sales and garage sales and flea markets and like to buy stuff and flip them. And the money I get from that is what I use to buy the comic book. So basically, the comics are free. And it's really crazy how things have worked out. But so that's what I'm doing. So I started doing videos on TikTok and Facebook Reels. So I just thought they were fun to do and to share when I found cool items out, in the wild. And that's what I've been doing. So, besides going to the comic book store I go to here in Salt Lake City is Black Cat Comics. So shout out to Black Cat Comics over in the Sugar House area of Salt Lake City. A great group of guys. They actually let me sit in on a podcast this week, so I'd like to thank them for that. That was fun. So I like talking comics. I like talking movies, like talking TV shows. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So what I got for us today is I got two lots, some interesting comics in both of those lots that I got. Now the lots came from Goodwill. You didn't know that Goodwill sold comics, did you? Well, we'll get into that. I also found a hardcover graphic novel that I think was really interesting. It was one of the things I missed during the 20 years I was away, and I want to know if you guys have seen it yet or read it yet, and let me know what you think about there. And what else do I have going on? What I'm currently doing with the comic book room in my collection, which is driving me nuts. And we could touch on some other things like the writer's strike. And right before I came on the microphone today, I just happened to go online and happened to see the trailer drop for Kraven the Hunter, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson. That looks really good in the trailer. We'll see how the movie actually plays out in the theaters. But I'm excited about that. That looks decent. Although we do have to wait till October. But if you've been reading about the writer's strike, and maybe the actor's strike too coming up, waiting is something we're going to be doing a lot of, in the coming months and years. But we'll get into that. And I don't know, we'll see what other things pop into my mind as I'm talking on the microphone here. But stick around. If you can, please like, subscribe, follow, do all those things on all the places you normally do them, especially here right now on YouTube. I am also on Twitter, Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. I'm even thinking about starting a Pinterest page, just starting to show artwork from comic books. Look for that too. I'm going to start that this week, actually. So check me on all those places. I always like to say, do all the things on all the places. That's what I mean. So subscribe, like, follow. I really want to hear from you. So if you find this video enjoyable in any way whatsoever, or even if you don't find it enjoyable in any way whatsoever, just let me know. Drop me a line. I want to get to it. So one of the things I do is I have a mantra for collecting comics because I miss so much time. I like to collect as much as I can for as cheap as I can. I'm not so much worried about key issues. If I find key issues, great. I'm just trying to collect runs, complete runs, filling gaps where I don't have stuff, and just find cool comics. I like good stories. I like to read comics. Believe it or not, I actually read the comic books. I do have piles, like every other comic book collector does. That piles I'm going to get to eventually, and I probably never will get to them. But that's the fun of collecting comics. I mean, we collect it for the artwork. We collect it because someday we know we're going to be sitting around and we're going to try to read that comic book or that graphic novel. And that's what I like to do. So it doesn't always have to be the biggest comic book. And to be honest with you, I don't have the money to spend thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars on key issues. So if I find one out in the wild, yay me. If I don't, I'm okay with that. I have enough stuff back there that I really, really like that's interesting to me. And that's the really heart of collecting, isn't it? Buying what you like or collecting what you like. Like I said, I like to get as much as I can for as cheap as I can. And one way I do that is I try to buy big bundles of comics. I haven't gotten to the point yet where I'm trying to buy people's collections, spend $500 and get somebody's, 4 or 5 long boxes or whatever. Haven't done that. I'm working my way up to it, but I haven't done that yet. One of the places I've found to be pretty decent for getting a lot of comics for a cheap price has been Goodwill online auctions. Now, if you've seen any of my TikToks or seen any of my Facebook Reels, I've mentioned this in the past. If you go to Goodwill.com, you can go on their website. They have an online auction site that works just like eBay. You go in, you put in the search engine what you're looking for, different things pop up. They have auctions that end at a certain date. They even have buy it now items. You have to pay for the shipping, obviously, to have it sent from whatever Goodwill is coming from. Each Goodwill is operated independently, but they all feed into the main website. So just know that you do have to do your due diligence. You cannot just, they have a comic book, okay, I'm going to get it, and expect it to be in great condition. It doesn't work that way. Just like you would on eBay, you have to look at the pictures very carefully, look at the description. Sometimes they don't even show you all the comic books. They'll show you like a stack, and you see some of them, but they don't show you every single comic. So you have to take a chance. So sometimes it's a gamble. It's a little bit risky sometimes. Sometimes you get burned. Sometimes you turn out and you get something really decent in there you didn't know you were going to get. So I've seen people buy... I've seen lots go for hundreds of dollars. I've seen them go for $5. It just depends on what the comic is and what people are interested in. So what I've been doing is, my general rule of thumb is I'll buy a lot of comics, and the lot may be 20 comics deep. And if I might get it for $10, and I have $10 shipping, and then that's $20 I spent. I got 20 comics. That's about $1 comic, and that's where I like to be. I like to be in and around $1 comic or less if I can. So that's what I do. I go around, I hunt around, I look. Sometimes even late at night at 3 a.m. If I'm up, I'll snipe, some last second eBay auctions if I get something real cheap that's decent that I want. That's what I do, and I have fun doing it. So one of the things I got recently was I just opened up an X-Men box that I got from Goodwill. It came the other day. I opened it up, and can I say something? For the 20 years I was out, there are so many different X-Men titles. I mean, you got Astonishing X-Men, All New X-Men, X-Force, X-Factor, Uncanny Avengers, which is all Uncanny X-Force, all these different mishmashes of X-Men books. It's actually just crazy trying to keep up with it all. But this lot that I got was all X-Men books. There was All New X-Men, there was X-Factor, there was X-Force, there was some X-Men Secret Invasion. There's even X-Men Apocalypse versus Dracula miniseries, which is nuts. Speaking of miniseries, that's one of the things I like when I collect is I get these bundles, and it comes with like 2 of 4 parts of a miniseries. So I like trying to hunt down the other 2 parts of the miniseries and try to get them real cheap, and I have the whole series. That's one thing I like to do. So speaking of that, in this lot that I got, it came across this. Deadly Genesis, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. Do you know what Deadly Genesis is? Do you know how important this miniseries is? Well, if you don't know, let me tell you. This is the story, the retelling of the story, of the first attempt to save the original X-Men from the island of Krakoa. What? That's right. Giant-sized X-Men number 1, which we all know is the story of Professor X getting a whole new team of international mutants together to go to the island of Krakoa and save the original team of X-Men, right? That's the story we all know. Well, it turns out that wasn't Professor Xavier's first attempt to save the team. In this miniseries, we go over the first attempt that went horribly wrong. It was a disaster. People died. And we find out what happened during this miniseries. And this miniseries is kind of cool because each book, they tell the story, and at the end, there's a backup story that tells you the origin of one of those original members of the team that failed at trying to save the original X-Men. This book is a key issue. It is the very first appearance of Gabriel Summers, who is Scott Summers and Alex Summers' brother. They didn't know they had a brother. Their father was getting freaky up in outer space, and they had a son, and some stuff happened, and they thought the son died. The son actually lived, and a whole bunch of stuff happened, and that became the X-Men villain known as Vulcan. The last time we saw Vulcan was in X-Men Red. I think he's still in X-Men Red. I haven't read the last few issues. I know he fought Storm in X-Men Red number 10. So you can find Vulcan there. But key issue, first appearance of Vulcan is in that book. Now, I have the first 4 issues. I have to go get 5 and 6. So I want to read this. I had to go and read the synopsis of what it was about. I was so excited. Like, oh, that's a cool story. I got to get the other 2 issues so I can go finish reading it. Such a cool idea. So I like that idea. Good book. One to go hunt around for at your LCS if you can find it. It's X-Men Deadly Genesis. Not to be confused with X-23 Deadly Regenesis. Now, there's so many titles in comic books. They reuse all the same titles all the time. It's actually kind of crazy. But X-Men Deadly Genesis, look for that at your LCS. That first issue, that's the first appearance of Vulcan. The other lot that I got from Goodwill this week, I opened it up tonight actually, was a Superman. I'm sorry, it's actually Superman Batman. It's Superman Batman comic book by Jeff Loeb. I like those two together. I love Batman and Superman together as a team. I was excited to get some issues from this run. I have some of these issues already. I wanted to get more, so that's why I chose this lot. I knew there was a lot of books in there from Superman Batman, but I couldn't see all the issues. I couldn't tell what specific issues were in the lot. I could just tell there was a bunch. So there's some other things in there, and the pictures look pretty decent. They already came with bags and boards, so they were probably well protected. So I took a chance. I spent $40 for 32 comics, so it came out to be about $1.30 a comic book or so. And I went through it, and other than the Batman Superman books or the Superman Batman books, there wasn't much. But the Superman Batman books were really, really fun. And I got almost every issue from... It didn't have the first issue, obviously. It didn't have that. But it had everything from 2 through 20, missing just issues number 1 and 5. So I got 20 issues, all in great condition. Some of the other filler stuff that I got. Send this to CGC. It's Creeper number 1. This is going to be worth something someday. This is like DC's version of Sleepwalker. Of Marvel's Sleepwalker. But, alright. So what do we... So we'll go through the junk first. And we'll get through the... junk. And let's see what we got here. So the junk included a bunch of... Like I said, it's just junk. This is the filler stuff. I got a Hellblazer. I got Steel. The only thing is interesting about this, it had the DC Universe logo variant. We got this is a modern issue of Swamp Thing from 2021. Like I said, it's just odds and ends. Unknown Soldier, part of that miniseries. I got a Young Justice comic book. I don't know anything about this, but House of Secrets. It's a Vertigo comic. Green Arrow number 30. Now this is the Green Arrow second run. This is the one that started with Kevin Smith doing the stories. This is a great run. When I got back into comics, I happened to win a lot on Goodwill, and I got the first 15, 16, 17 issues of this. I love the covers. I love the painted art in the covers. But this story in these are really, really good. So it's one of my favorite runs. I love that. A run from the first, an issue from the first run of Green Arrow. We got Superboy number 1. Hawkman. Like I said, this is all junk, but this is interesting. I got an Identity Crisis number 1, which is cool about this is, remember I said I like collecting miniseries? Well, I have issues. This is a 7-issue miniseries, and I have issues 3 through 7. Now I have issues 1, 3 through 7. I have to just find that second issue, and I got the whole thing, and then I can finally read it. So, like I said, the junk part of this lot is really just junk. I mean, outside of the Superboy and maybe the Identity Crisis, really just nothing. Alright, so now we get to Superman Batman. This is a filler issue 2. This is the Secret Files and Origin from 2003. Alright, who cares about that? Then we're going to go backwards. We got 20. Alright. We got 19. We got 18. We got 17. We got 16. 15. 14. 13. 12. 11, 10, 9. It's coming, people. And 8. Now, this is the doozy right here. This is like a 25-hour book. This is Superman Batman number 8 by Jeff Loeb and Michael Turner. This reintroduces the first appearance of Supergirl. That's right. Supergirl comes back in this issue. First appearance back. I was surprised it was in there. I didn't think it would be. I thought they'd skip over it. But it was in there, so I'm super excited, to spend $40 and I got one book out of it, all of it. It's worth $25. I'll take it. We got issue number 7, issue number 6, we got issue number 4, issue number 3, and issue number 2. I just got to get that first issue and that 5th issue out of the first 20, which is a nice little start for that run. I would go to it if I saw these at a comic book store and they were $2 a piece for these. I would pay for these. So just these alone, without even $25, that's almost worth $40 as far as I'm concerned. And if you don't think so, who cares? I like it. I thought it was a good deal. So, and these, these junk books, what I usually end up doing with the junk books is I'll put them in the runs. I'll put them in the boxes. And when I get enough of, I'll do like a Mod Podge of like just odds and ends that I just don't want. And I'll throw them together for like $5 or something. And someone will usually end up buying them. To get them out of the boxes so they're not there. And if it's a more popular title, like I might have odds and ends, or there might be extra copies of maybe there's a Batman book that I don't collect. I'll collect a bunch of different odds and ends of Batman. I'll do a whole Batman grab bag, if you will. And people will usually end up buying those too. So what do you think? 2 comic book lots from Goodwill. I got some decent books in each one. That Deadly Genesis, I really like that. And that Supergirl first appearance. I'm liking that one too. One of the Supergirl things I've gotten recently in the past couple months was the Supergirl Rebirth, Supergirl title. And there's some comics in the middle of that run, like in the late teens and up into the early 20s, that were done by Stanley Lau art term. And they're really awesome covers. I really, really like his artwork on the covers there. So you might want to check those out. All right, now the graphic novel I mentioned before that I got at a thrift store. In Utah here, thrift stores are huge. I probably go to one every day. And I was in the Savers, and in their book section, I found this. It's called Fables. Now, if you know, you know. I didn't know. All right, never heard of it before. I was reading the back, and I went online just do a little bit of a review and some back checking on this, and it seems to be like a really great book, and I can't believe I looked into it. It was only $5, and I had a 20% off coupon. I got it for $4. Hardcover, it is the deluxe edition, book 1 of Fables. Now, I believe this book still is being published, and I think it's in it's over 100 issues, I think, now. But it's such a cool idea. It's like if I'll read from the back of it, just so if you haven't read this or you're not familiar with it, you'll get an idea of why I picked it up. It says, once upon a time, imagine that all the characters from the world's most beloved storybooks were real and living amongst us. All right, with all their powers intact, how would they cope with life in our mundane, unmagical world? All right, the thing that cracks me up is, you look up at the corner here, there's a bunny with 2 guns. This just looks nuts, and the artwork is fairly decent. So I'm just curious how the storyline's gonna play out. I want to get into this really badly. But if you read this, if you're a fan of Fables, let me know. Drop me a line. And as always, please, people, comment if you like what I'm saying, if you don't like what I'm saying, if you agree with what I'm saying, you don't agree with what I'm saying. Either way, let me know. I would love to talk to you about it in the comments. So I lucked out with that, so I'm going to get into that soon too. And that was all I had, just as initial show, just to show you a couple things that I got going on. As far as TV and movies going on, this writer's strike is going to kill us, man. This writer's strike, and now the actors might end up joining them. It's going to push everything back. Marvel already released a statement that they've pushed back some movie release dates because of the writer's strike. I already know that some series are getting affected. They can't go and talk about. They can't even go and have conversations about what they want to write about, let alone just write about it because they're on strike. So it's going to affect a lot of things. If everybody remembers the writer's strike that happened back in, oh man, I want to say it was 2009 or 2010. I remember it was the third season of Lost. It was really, really short because they had a writer's strike and they couldn't do all the episodes they wanted to do. And I remember that when that writer's strike happened, there were some series that just totally, they never recovered from losing their audience and losing the momentum that they had built up. So I hope this doesn't happen with this writer's strike. So cross your fingers. It's so funny that Hollywood is one of the most unoriginal places in the world, and they will not pay anybody who are the most original and the most creative. They're just trying to keep all the money for themselves and not pay these people. I always said that it takes both a good writer and you have to have a good person that can see the writer's vision and able to portray that in a story. So I always think what works best in Hollywood is writer and director teams. You have the Russo brothers in Marvel, and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are a good example. They're actors, so they understand the acting part of it. They're both writers. Ben Affleck has directed movies before. He's a very good director. So if I'm a Hollywood studio, I'm looking for more director-writer teams. Because you can have a guy write a great story, but if a director can't bring that story to life and envision it the way that the writer does, it's not going to work out. You need the writer and the director on the same page in terms of the same vision, and that will usually end up working out really, really well. And I think Hollywood also needs to take more chances on stories and creative content and not always just fall back to IP. Look, we all know that there's established audiences for certain IPs, Predator, Aliens, Star Trek, Star Wars. We know that there's built an audience for these things all the time, and there always will be those audiences. But man, get an original story once in a while, guys, please. It'll do you so much better in the long run if you get some original ideas out there. I mean, some of the coolest things I'm excited about in comic books have been indie books recently because they're just fresh ideas. I mean, even though I love Superman and Batman, the books I just went through, I really like them two together. But I mean, everybody's seen Superman and Batman solve a million different, villains plots over the years, and after a while, those can be tiring. So they have to work harder to try to come up with a more creative story to keep readers engaged. Indie comics have a little bit less time doing that because we don't know any of their characters, so everything's new to us. So when I read an indie comic that is new and the stories are good, I get super excited. And sometimes I feel my excitement is way more than if I read something good in Spider-Man or read something good in, The Flash. Because the indie comic book, it's really new. I don't know anything about it at all. Some of the books I read recently that really excited me were The Nasty by Vault Comics. If you're a kid that grew up in the 80s and you loved watching videotapes and going to the video store and renting out movies and watching slasher films and all kinds of movies that were supposed to be banned that your mom and dad didn't want you to watch, but you watched it in your basement anyway, that comic is for you. I just read a real interesting one called The Sickness. It's black and white. It almost looks like it's sketched artwork, but it's creepy. I recommend reading that in a dark room all by yourself. That's what the owner of Black Cat Comics told me to do. And that's what I did, and it was creepy. So try The Sickness. I've been reading Clear from Image. That's like a cross between the Blade Runner and The Matrix. Put those two together, like a noir detective, but set in a high-tech world. It's been pretty interesting. What other ones have I read recently that really surprised me? Can't think of anything off the top of my head. In terms of indie comics, the one that surprised me the most, and I just mentioned this on a podcast recently, was Do a Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson. Last year, he released that 7-issue miniseries about wrestling in comics, and it was the best thing ever, man. It was probably my favorite book last year of all time, and it was just so much fun. And now it's exciting to see Daniel Warren Johnson he's going to be doing Transformers, which I'm really, really excited. His artwork is very chaotic and very, looks like it's very kinetic. I'm doing a bad job explaining this, but it just looks like there's a lot going on in his artwork all the time, and I think that's going to work well for Transformers. And we got G.I. Joe coming in the new Energon universe over there by Kirkman, and so lots of exciting things happening in comics. I've seen Spider-Verse. I loved it. It's one of the best Spider-Man movies, if not one of the best comic book movies, in a really, really long time, if not all time. I mean, I saw something recently where they were saying there's too much of the Spider-Verse and too much, no, there's not. Instead of doing movies about every Spider-Man villain, they should be doing movies about all the different variants of Spider-Man. Tell me you wouldn't watch, I mean, they're already doing it, but they're going to do a Spider-Man noir film they're talking about doing. Wouldn't you watch a Spider-Man film with one of the other versions of Spider-Man? Wouldn't you watch a Ben Reilly Spider-Man movie? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't that be an interesting movie to watch? Wouldn't you watch a cowboy Spider-Man movie? I would watch that movie. Are you crazy? So, they should lean more into the Spider universe because, that's the happening thing right now, Spider-Man. Now, when I talk to you on Wednesday, when I do my next video, we'll have new comics come in. Well, we're going to go over Spider-Man a little bit and what's going on in the Spider-Man universe, because some things are going on in the Spider-Man universe that are very cool. And but one of the things that's not going on that's uncool in Spider-Man universe is Spider-Man. But we'll talk about that on Wednesday. And Friday, when we do a show on Friday, we'll get set up for the weekend and see what movies are coming out. And, what reactions I had to reading some of the Wednesday's comics. And that's what I got for you today. If you like what I'm saying and you don't like what I'm saying, either way you slice it, drop me a comment. I had fun talking to you. As always, I'm Crazy Curt. This is Crazy Curt Comics. And I'm out. Peace.